Hey Chirpy, hey Fridge, congrats on what we hope is a successful border inspection today. Russ Knox, g'day. Paul, hello. Paddy, g'day. Mark Osborne, hello. Craig, g'day. James B, hello. Stephen Lang, g'day. I don't know. Kevin, hello. Don't know what happened there. I dropped out. Sorry. Hope it doesn't back into it a bit because are we there? So I haven't got any 2mm bar for the cranks yet. I haven't glued this one in. Let's have a look at it. Now, I was going to say all sorts of nice things about this engine, but it's actual designers here in the chat, so we've got to be a little bit you've got to keep him in top of his form a little bit, so I don't want to sort of talk it up too much. But take care, Trev. But yeah, this isn't a bad little engine. I'm going to go there. It's not running yet, but I think it's probably a bit of a winner. It's nicely designed. It's not running yet. We've got that on, and we've managed to get a pretty good sort of a fit there on the displacer bearing, and we've sort of got the diaphragm for the power piston all sorted. These travel suite tins are pretty hard to find here in Queensland. I bought that one in Tasmania when I was down there with the absolute intention of building this engine, but I managed to find another one today. You've got to know where to look, but it's coming together all right, and I think it's probably going to run. So a little bit sort of impressed with that. I think it's a nice engine. I have, because I can't seem to do these things very simply, this displacer may or may not work, right? There's not a lot of weight in it, and it might work, and Myford Boy, I'd really like some feedback on this, but this is hollow section, so it's got about 4mm, 5mm wall, 4mm wall all the way around, top and bottom, and the sides. I think we've got bad reception. I'm sorry. I really am sorry, everyone. I'm not sure about that. We've got no... Hey, Stephen. What can we do about this? Let's have a look. Let's see what I can do about this. I'm probably going to lose. Is that any better? Frozen? Are we there? Actually move something. You might not actually be frozen. There might not be anything on the screen is where I'm at. Are we better? Is that better? That's clear? Okay, righto. We'll try that. That's good. Now, this displacer, right? This is totally like... This is sort of completely theoretical. But what I've done is I've printed this with a I think it was a Hilbert curve infill for the Prusa slicer, and with no perimeter, so it's got no top and bottom layer and no side wall, so it's just infill. Hey Peter. So not sure about this. It's pretty light and I think it should move air fairly well. I guess time will sort of tell with that. I don't know. Might try it and I'll go back to polystyrene if it doesn't work. But there we go. Not sure about that. Anyway. Air shouldn't travel through it. It's supposed to move the air. But air travelling through it should cool the little bit that does. I don't know. I'm thinking it might be a bit heavy, but I'm honestly not sure. We'll see. It does sort of seem to be okay, but we'll see. If it hasn't got the power to run it, well, we'll go back to polystyrene. But I don't have any polystyrene sheets, so it didn't happen. We'll try this first. Hey, Raymond. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, not sure about that. Probably this engine's not the test bed for things like this, but we'll see. I'll try it. I'll let you know. So apart from that, this is a 0.5mm mechanical pencil tip, which is probably really good. And this is a piece of 0.5mm spring wire in here. Nice straight bit, which probably is a fraction tight. But this is a brass tube on here. So a bit of brass on it seems to have fixed it. I think it's probably not bad. I'll just reassemble that. Or not, depending. I'm not having a lot of luck with that. Come on, go in there. Sorry, guys. There we go. Got it in place. So I think that's probably pretty good, but we'll see. Still got to hook this up with the string and put some spacers on this and find a couple of pins and put what I think it probably needs baffle or printed this little piece to glue in the bottom here to stop deflection. To give us a bit more controlled sort of, I think the idea of that is to give us a bit more controlled chamber space in there, so that when the air is expanded to contraction, it doesn't move the diaphragm in and out, or it doesn't move the base in and out, it moves the diaphragm. So that's what it looks like, right? We'll hold it back here. Not timed yet. It's got a 75 thou gauge pin in that end and a drill in that side. Gonna have to find some 2mm something to put in there. We'll see how we go with that. This flywheel's got a bit of a wobble in it, which I'm not that happy with, so I've printed another one. This may not be the right one, because this is starting to be very, very close to touching here. I don't like that in one spot. Little hot air engines like this really need every chance they got to run. So anyway, we'll see. Anyway, that's my thoughts too, that this may be too heavy, but it's not. There ain't much weight in it. I haven't put on the scales beside a block of foam, and I might do that before I assemble it. But look, where I'm at is that there's a bit of a gap there. Now, I only used the bearings that I had, which weren't flanged, and I see the flanged bearings are a really good idea, and I could have bought some and waited for them, etc, etc, etc. But I only used a couple of little ball races that I had. So it's quite a good fit that way, and there's no movement that way. What the problem is that this flywheel's got a wobble, and one side, if we have a look at that, I don't know if we can see that. It's not too bad now. But one side's getting very, very close to the support here. And there's a bit much friction on that size drill on this, so we're going to have to just fix that. This one here I think is pretty good on this side, but whether we make a couple of crank pins or find a bit of stuff, I don't know. This is just a piece of neoprene or latex glove. And it's got a vent hole into the bottom here, so that's where it... And what happens is you heat the bottom and you cool the top, or you have a temperature differential. If anyone knows anything about Stirling engines, everyone's probably an expert at this, but here's a rough idea of how they work. You've got a temperature difference between the top and the bottom plate, and there's a displacer in here that only moves the air backwards and forwards. Some of them on fancier engines probably cool the air a little bit, but mostly what it does is move the air from the hot side to the top side, the hot side to the cold side. So this is the hot side and it's the cold side. So when you move the displacer up and down by spinning the flywheel, which is connected to this linkage here, right, with a piece of thread, when you move this up and down, it moves the air from the hot side to the cold side and back again. And in turn, that cools and heats the air and causes it to expand and contract. And that pumps this diaphragm up and down and turns the flywheel. So that's kind of how they work. I know some of you are going to deep dive about that, but that's how it works. And 3D printing has some really pretty awesome characteristics here. It just travels past. There's a gap round. there's a gap around it, and all it does is move the air from the top to the bottom, so it doesn't actually travel through it. It just, there's no friction or anything. There's quite a gap in between or around the sides here, and all it does is move the air from the top to the bottom, so it displaces it and moves it from this end to this end, and that means that the air on, when it's up here, the air's at the bottom on the hot side and it expands, and when it's down here, the air's on the cold side up here and it contracts. So it's just that simple. Got a piece of styrofoam there that will probably work too. I've managed to find a piece. I'm going to have to cut it to size, and there's messy, awful stuff, I think. Haven't got a hot wire cutter. Also check out Myford Boys channel if you really want some awesome hot air engine builds. This one's sort of the poor cousin to most of the stuff he makes. So we're getting a friction noise there. So something's touching somewhere I don't like. But anyway. Anyway, this is the critical bit, this bearing here, right? You've got a rod that actually passes from the sealed chamber out into the atmosphere, and that's got to be airtight, and because of the not crazy power output of this, it's got to be friction free too. So that's kind of probably, this is a bit tight, we might put a bit of graphite on this wire, move it up and down, but yes, this has got a membrane rather than a piston here, but this one here, not, you could probably use a membrane, but what you end up with is too much friction again, and you end up with something touching down the bottom here. So anyway, that's what I've been messing around with this last weekend. It wasn't a huge big, we'll put this around here so you can see it. It wasn't a huge big project. I mean, I've got, with printing time and glue dry time, I probably got about 3 hours in that. So it's probably one of those engines that's going to run though. I'll say now, I've made quite a comprehensive video on building it, just to overview what I think is step by step about what my thoughts are. But like all Myford Boys designs, absolutely faultless. It's not the first one I built, and it probably won't be the last one I build actually, but absolutely faultless, and excellent designs mostly. I've had the laser cutter out here this week, so sorry, we've got computer bits everywhere. I don't know, we're sort of, we'll put this up here. Bit more traditional is this one. This is a Myford Boyd engine too. This is a really nice little engine. This one's if you're looking for a good engine from a kit that'll run and is fairly simple to build, it takes some thinking about in places, but fairly simple to build and good valve vents and good cylinder and valve design. And these are his castings too, good castings. But this little portable, this little stationary engine is really pretty nice. So there's a plug. Go and buy a kit off this guy, because honestly, they all seem to perform pretty well. Downloaded these plans from Thingiverse. If you have a look at, if you look for David's, for Myford Boys video on this, there's a link to Thingiverse with the downloadable plans and files. I don't know if there's many plans with it. It's pretty straightforward, but it's not a bad little engine. And there you go. There's the blog. The blog's worth a look. There's some pretty cool stuff there. Check is in the post. Yeah, it should be the other way around, because I should have a shopping list feature on your a wish list on your blog, because there's a lot of things that I'd like. Anyway, absolutely, they're good. They're really, they're really. His traction engine's a really sweet little design. I really like that, and the few that I've seen built have really been good, reliable runners, and it's a pretty nice engine. And compared to, it's somewhere between a mini, it's like a 3/4 inch to the foot scale mini, and the Kenneth Wells. It's somewhere in that block between, but there's a lot of bits in it, and it looks like a fairly complicated little engine, but it all uses the same cylinder block, I believe, and probably the same valve gear as this little stationary. My biggest regret is I didn't buy the generator with this, and you get them both together. I should have done that, but there you go. At some point, I wouldn't mind having another go at that. And see how the rest of my life pans out. There's plenty of other projects. I don't know if anyone noticed around here. So that's a pretty good engine. It's straightforward, it's easy to build. I never had a lot of problems with this. Timing, it was excellent. It's reversible. It's got slipper-centric valve gear, which is really well thought out. Very, very simple to make, and all works properly. This casting took a bit of fun setting up. If you've got a milling machine now, it should be straightforward. And when I did this, I never. So I did this on the Lorch, which was borderline interesting, really. But anyway, it can be done, but you have to think about it a bit. So that's a pretty good little engine. And it's not an aluminium flywheel, it's a zinc alloy flywheel, so it's quite heavy. And it's a nice little engine. Anyway, that's what I've been messing around with. It's pretty laid back here this weekend. I've also been working on the next door neighbour's motorbike, making some brackets to move the pedals on his Harley up and forward so he doesn't get leg cramps, and so they clear his fancy new exhaust system. It's a fairly expensive custom bike that he's building. So I might put these away. This Chinese gauge pin set's fantastic. Be prepared though that some of these, like there's two number 69 thou gauge pins in here and no number 70. So some of them are doubled up. But not a big deal for the money. They're excellent. It gets used a bit. Take care. Thanks for clocking in. Go and check out that blog because there's some good stuff on it, and click a few links and watch some videos, everyone. Anyway, there we go. Is what not an eBay set? Yes, it is an eBay set. I think wasn't crazy expensive. Can't remember how much. They're not bad, and it gets used quite a lot. It's not like AA grade or anything, but it's certainly good enough for checking diameters of holes and things like that. And for aligning reamed holes and holes in plates and things so that you can match up the other holes. Things like that. It's not bad. Press is a little bit closer, not very much, but I've done and made a few little bits, some like cushion washers and things. And I've ordered some steel for an adapter or a bolster plate or whatever you want to call it. So that's coming together. Probably be here today or tomorrow, so whether I get onto that this weekend or whether I do something else, I don't know. Polished a couple of brass ship's clocks, or fake ship's clocks, porthole clocks I guess you would call them, for work. Yesterday and the day before I did one each day, so that was a couple of hours each day. I took them and handed them over today. So that's something else I've done. There's pictures on Discord, I think. Don't know what else. I think Stefan probably talked about these in one of his videos. Don't know if he did or not. This is a scotchbrite brush, a miniature scotchbrite brush. They come in different sort of different colours and cuts, etc. like that. They come in red and green and brown and so forth and so on, and white, I think. Antelope's the brand, which are pretty well respected, but this is an excellent, fairly quick way of moving material off something that needs refinishing. And it'll give you, this one is a cutting one, but the finer one, the green one, will give you like a nice brush finish on stainless steel, or if you've got a new one, then on titanium. But they're pretty good. Antelope mini scotchbrite reel. That's our supplier, but I don't know whether you can deal through them or not. It's our work supplier. But there's always heaps of them here and there. I think they're fantastic, actually. I'm a big fan. for finishing, they're great. Hey, Mark. So that's what I did. I had the laser cutter out, and I've got a few little issues with it. There's a niggly issue, and I'm going to have to get to the bottom of that. That issue is that the thing tends to creep on long engravings. Like if you've got an engraving that's going to take an hour to do, you can expect by the time it gets to about 30 minutes that what happens is that one of the stepper motors isn't adjusted properly, and I've got to get the multimeter and fix it. And that's all it is, I think, is that it's pushing too much voltage into it and overheats, and then it starts skipping. And because because of the way it's set up, what happens is that the if one of the motors steps, then it doesn't just move. You don't just move one way, or you don't just lose some X or some Y travel. You lose both. But anyway, it's going to need a little bit of fine tuning and a bit of messing around. But I think that's all it is, because a couple of long prints I've done, it just creeps by the time it gets to the bottom of them, and that's less than desirable. So I've got to get to that. So that's the current problem with the laser cutter, the laser engraver. It works. I set it up and I cut that circle out there with it without any problems at all. Out of cardboard, that sort of work. It's easy and it's good. But as far as doing major picture engraving or etching on wood or anything like that, by the time you get to the bottom, you get a bit of creep. And that's, I mean, it's not even much. It's probably over an hour, you might lose 2 or 3 steps, or probably 5 steps, and it's enough to give you smudged and blurred letters, things like that. Anyway. I think it probably needs less because it's overheating. That's where I'm at with it. One of the steppers gets pretty hot, another one doesn't. So I'm guessing that that's where the issue is. And the one that's getting hot is the one that skips. So we'll have a think about that. It's probably fixable. I don't know, they were both wound pretty well fully right up, and I think I wound one of them back, and that seems to have fixed it. And I need to really check the current on the rating and see how it looks and see if that fixes it. But we'll give it time. Not sure, but that's sort of my diagnosis, I think. Got to make a bigger sheet and plate rack. The one I made was just lots of little offcuts. I think I'm going to have to actually, I'd really like something that takes like a 6 by 4 foot sheet, something like that, or 8 by 4 foot sheet. That's what I'd like, and something that I can rolled out of the way without it tipping over, etc., 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 and something with a bit more capacity. So that's another project for some time. Got a lot of woodwork hand tools kicking around that probably need their edges protected and things. So another project for the next little while might be to actually build a toolbox to put all that in. So watch this space on that. There might be some woodwork. I've got a couple of boards there that might actually work pretty well for it. I got a present from a Facebook friend on the other side of town, which was really nice. Asked me what arbor size my mill was, and sent these. It's a Morse Taper 3. Looks like it's probably a boring head arbor. And this one, which is a face mill arbor, it's not bad, and it's got this face mill on it. I'm not sure how that works. With bolts in there. Not sure about this, but it's missing the teeth anyway. If anyone's got any insight into that, but that's not a bad arbor actually. I'm not sure how much use they'll be for anyone, but it's pretty cool to have them, and that's awesome. What other exciting things are happening? Some videos from Stephen Lang on that plasma cutter. That looks like a pretty good sort of a thing for the money. There was... Who else has got a video out? Golly, I'm sorry guys. I know I've watched a lot of YouTube this last weekend. I'm not sure what I have watched and what I haven't. If anyone's got a video out, put a link to it. If you have your page open and cut and paste it into the chat when live stream starts, I haven't got an issue with that at all. Much appreciated if you can do that. I sort of had thought that live stream might take a bit of a different turn this year. I don't know what everyone's thoughts on this are, and I've given it a little bit of thought, but if we set up and had like a co-host thing and had guests on the channel, it means two things really. One is that I've got to get home in time to brush my hair and look half respectable after a big day at work, which I'm less... sounds like a good process, it's a good thing on paper, but it never ever sort of ends well. And I've got to be a little bit more organised to set up links and things a few days before, so that whoever's going to be a guest on the channel, and there'll only be one probably, needs to be a bit organised. That's all. So that's a thought. I don't know what everyone thinks about that, but that's sort of what I was thinking. There was a blooper one from Rust Knox. Yes, I did see that. Not really like ARW. Trying not to. I mean, that's awesome. But Harold's is not particularly inclusive. There's not a lot of input from community. It's just 2 or 3 people who tend to hold their attention above the other creators who might be just as interesting. And there's not a lot of like community interaction with it or anything like that. So I'm trying not. I'm seriously trying not to do it like that. It'd sort of be more along the lines of questions and answers and watching the chat and having some sort of an input into it. So I was thinking we we're just going to have like 2 workshops instead of 1 on the channel, but still giving that a thought. I don't know about software or anything like that, and I'm not particularly well organised at the moment. I haven't been organised for 12 months, to be honest. What with moving, it's been a crappy year, to be honest. I hope everyone else has had a better year than I've had. Things have been all over the show this year, and I haven't really achieved anything for 6 months. And I have, YouTube-wise, I haven't really achieved anything in 18 months, but we'll see how we go. Got this little engine ready to sort of, as soon as it's running, really, it's sort of only half hour's video work really to upload that. So you'll see that sort of as soon as it's going, which probably be tomorrow night, something like that. It might be Friday, but we'll see how we go. I'm working again on Saturday. I've had a couple of days off this last couple of weeks, so things are sort of middling. Anyway, people ask about the mill. I don't know if there's any progress with that. Still got to work out the electricity and stuff. Hasn't happened. Try and get rent and phone bills and things paid first, and then maybe we'll think about it later on. Hey, Nigel. There's still a heap of projects that I want to build from Toolfest and from TMC from the last 3 or 4 years. And I did make a laser cutter. And that's sort of starting to work okay if I don't run it for too long. It's getting there. It needs some fine tuning, but nothing serious. Really wanted to make Nigel's floating reamer holder, because there has been a lot of times that I wished I had that. And I really want to make Tom's rotary brooch, because that'd be a pretty useful thing too. And I've got drawings and kits and things here for him. It's just a matter of getting in and doing it. And at the moment, I'm a bit slack. That might change. Yeah, there's a part 2 of the chuck build, which is a crazy big job. Yeah, pay that man what he's worth per hour, and he's got a fairly expensive chuck. But good videos, both of them, well worth a look. If you haven't seen it, you should go and check that out. They're fantastic. Yeah, apart from that, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to report from my end. Haven't achieved anything with the locomotive at all, even a little bit. Haven't achieved anything with the Stuart 400 at all, even a little bit. Pulled the piston out of it the other month. Get this bench straightened off again, and I have. This bench was tidy for a couple of days, but there's stuff to put away and stuff to toss out, etc., and that'll happen. I'll get this little engine going first, and might pull it down and see what we can find as far as compression and stuff, and sort that out. I think that's where we're at. Got to organise a bottle of gas for my TIG welder. Hasn't happened yet. It's like most things, is waiting on funds. And yeah, we'll see how we go with that. But before very long, I've got all the paperwork to fill out there. It's just a matter of having some cash to facilitate it. So that'll happen. The little milling machine over there could do with a clean. It's done a bit of hard work recently, and it's got shavings piled up everywhere. That might be a job for this weekend, I think. I think I showed you guys this. Which is ambreco ready reckoner. You can pick a diameter of your bolt. If you've got a 10 metric M10mm bolt up the top there, and it gives you thickness of the head and diameter and hex diameter and all those sort of things that you might need if you're designing something. The diameter of the countersunk head and the angles and length of socket screws and domed head screws, those sort of things, and on the other ends, the other side's imperial. So pretty useful thing. I gave that a clean up too, which come up a lot better than it was. So now I can actually read it. Used it yesterday. Yeah, that's the problem, is that I haven't got any projects that I finished in the last 12 months. Really, and a couple of them I finished them, I'd be well on the way to being sort of progressive again, but until I do finish them, sort of hold me back a bit. So anyway, that's about all I've got. Bit slack, but it's probably all I got. Some pretty quiet live streams lately. Might spend some time, and I'll mix up some epoxy, and I'll epoxy that in there, ready for tomorrow. And yeah, I've got a watch crown to put together as well at some point for tomorrow. Could do with some cleanup, get everything organised. I've started a few this last 12 months. Don't worry about that. I've planned a few more, and planning's cheap. It's been a waste of a lot of time planning something. But if your funds go other places, and then they don't sort of eventuate for a long time. That's me yawning. Sorry, guys. So, what other things happening? Dan shared. Dan told me tonight that he has made another video for an update, It isn't uploaded yet because I checked, but we need to keep him honest about that. So I'll just say that's what it is, and you should watch out for that. So it'll be a good video. It'll be interesting. So you should totally bookmark his stuff and click the subscribe button, because it's not going to fill up your inbox. But he might have another video out soon. Streamlabs seems to be the common one, Paul. Take care, Stephen. Take care, Craig. I'm going to head out too. I think we're going to say this has run its course a bit. Hopefully from here on in we've got some good content, but might see this running next week. If we don't, well, there's something wrong. But if it doesn't run, I'll just give up completely. But you should see a video about it before then, I think, because the video is 3/4 edited. Anyway, be kind to each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. We've got to say that, I guess. And yeah, Merry Christmas, and if you all had one, and a Happy New Year. I really have a great New Year, and I hope it's better than the last one. So I'm out, and it's good that you all joined in. Anyone who joined in, big thanks. And we'll see you next week, if not before.